I think it's safe to say that you probably make music if you're watching this right now. And whether you just got started or you're doing this full time, what if tomorrow everything changed? You had millions of streams, you had a record deal, you have interview requests and all that stuff. Would you be able to handle it? Now, recently in a YouTube video, somebody suggested, Adam, you should do a video on, are you even ready for your big break if it were to happen? Which I think that's a great idea, and that's why we're doing this. It's one question that we don't ask ourselves enough. What does the big break look like? What does life-changing results look like? So many people think that they can go from right now and all they need is their big break. But what does that look like to you? What does that look like to me? A lot of people would say, well, if I go on American Idol and I win, if I happen to be on The Voice or America's Got Talent or any of these talent shows, or I'm going to go viral on TikTok and then a record label is going to sign me and everything is going to be okay. But will it? Now, one of my friends and mentors years ago said, Adam, even people that don't drive dream of having a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, these types of cars, even though they don't know how to drive it. And I was like thinking to myself, what does that even mean? And it makes so much sense, because if you and I have a Toyota Camry, a very basic Honda Civic, it's not the same at all as the animals such as like a Lamborghini or Ferrari, Maserati, McLaren, whatever your dream car is, right? We have to look at it that way. We have to learn how to drive aggressively. We have to learn how to handle that power, handle that performance, handle that up level of experience. When we're looking at our music career, we have to do the same thing. You can't just go from 0 followers to 5 million followers overnight and expect to know what to do with it. You can't go viral and get a bunch of comments and a bunch of hate and a bunch of love at the same time and feel like you're ready to be able to experience that, feel like you're ready to be able to even process that. I think so many times we romanticize our music career, romanticize what success looks like. We visualize ourselves on stage at Coachella. We visualize ourselves doing the acceptance speech when we win that Grammy Award. We visualize collaborating with people that we now look up to, right? As far as other artists, producers, engineers, and what have you. Here's the thing. I've had several students that have won a golden ticket on America's Got Talent, or been on American Idol or The Voice, or had a video go viral on TikTok. And they think it's going to be the golden ticket. And then it's a very hollow shell when they actually experience that. So many times in our life, I think the thrill of the chase is what we're actually looking for, right? So you start dating someone, you're going on a bunch of dates, you're talking to them, 3-hour phone calls and all this stuff. And eventually, especially bad relationships, you realize, oh, I was a little too eager, went in a little bit too fast, when it was a little bit too smitten, didn't see the whole entire field of red flags that this person was sending my way. And the same goes for success. The same goes for fame. The same goes for fortune, as far as financial gain and all that good stuff. Because we have to look at, okay, I want to buy a car. I want to buy a house. I want to pay my mom's mortgage off. Like all these different things. What does the actual reality behind the scenes, behind the curtain look like when you're not up on stage at Coachella, when you're not getting a Grammy Award, when you're not doing these things that you dream of? Because they're milestones, they're accomplishments, they're trophies. I have some trophies back here, kinda. They're from accomplishments I did in the past. We don't have trophies for things we do in the future. It's only the accolades we get from the work that we put in. But so often we look at, what is our expectation? What does it feel like to be rich? What does it feel like to be famous? What does it feel? We don't know until we're there, and the reality is going to be a lot different. We've all dealt with mental health issues, right? The pressures of society. You get a hate comment on something that you put out that you really care about, that you were proud of, and now it makes you feel a certain sort of way. You put a photo of yourself and you compare yourself to these other people that are more attractive than you, right? Taller than you, more athletic, more charismatic, these different things, more talented. It makes you feel a certain sort of way. Let me tell you, if you get famous overnight, it's kind of a pitfall here. If you get famous overnight, you're going to have a ton of attention that you may not have wanted. You thought you did, but with the love comes the hate. With the acceptance comes the rejection. So those mental health boundaries you have to build up. It's like if you and I go into the gym. I use a lot of gym analogies because fitness has always been a big part of my life. It's one of those things where you don't go up to the heaviest weight day one and expect to lift it with ease. You don't step on a treadmill expecting to be able to run a marathon. It's the things you do day after day that build that intestinal fortitude, the thick skin that everybody's always talking about. Mr. Beast did like 800 videos, maybe more than that, before he ever picked up any traction. You have to build that repetition if you want to do this thing long term, because just like winning the lottery, what comes fast usually goes fast as well. Now, when it comes to the money side of things, it can be a beautiful thing. It could be exciting. You can have an abundance. And over here, it can be horrifying. It can give you anxiety and stress to a level that you've never experienced before. I can only speak for those that are living in America, because like I live here in America in beautiful Central Florida, where we don't have state income tax. One reason to move to Florida. But when you make $100,000 on an advance, for example, because so many people want to sign to record labels, they give you $100,000. After taxes, that's about $58,000, depending on what state you live in. Some states even less. And that's a loan. They want you to pay them the $100,000 back as far as recoupment. But I didn't get $100,000. The taxes took. So you get taxed up front, and then you're now having to pay interest, almost twice what you actually ended up with, back to the label before you make any more money that's going to be taxed. And then if they give you a bonus for incentives, that bonus tax is, guys, making money quickly without the experience of understanding how to accumulate, the smarts of having the people around you, like a good accountant at very least, somebody that's financially conscious, because that new money goes to money, clothes, cars, and dates with people, right? I'm a happily married man. I love my wife to death. What we have to say to ourselves is, what does success look like and why? People say, oh, I want to be rich. I want to make $200,000 a year. I want to make recently, a couple months ago, I did a survey that was like, how much money would you have to make a year in order to do music full time? And some of the responses were just mind blowing. I'm like, that person doesn't know what that much money looks like, right? Because somebody's saying, I'm going to go for my full-time job and I can't leave my full-time job until I'm making $300,000 a year with my music. We'll never do music full-time. And I'll do a video on that in the future. We have to look at the financial pitfalls, but then we also have to look at the cost of opportunity. One thing that you and I should all be afraid of, one thing that I've suffered from in certain pockets of my life, something that you might suffer from in pockets of your life as you're finding your voice, as you're maturing, as you're moving towards that goal that you set a while back, and it keeps moving, it keeps changing, is losing your authentic self, losing authenticity in who you are. There's been times where I've done YouTube videos in the past that I was like, I just want to get views. I just want to get people to my online course, right? Like, I'll admit it. It comes to a point where you have this goal and you think that if you do something a certain way, it's going to, but then your voice starts to get watered down. Your connection's not there. You start looking at other priorities. You guys might be looking at views. You guys might be looking at subscribers. You guys might be looking at money. I mean, let's face it. Attention and money go hand in hand with building a business. However, like we were talking about before, if you go on American Idol and, shout out to Red, former Team Adam Ivy member, a dear friend of mine, some of my students, Sophie Pecora, for example. These people go into these talent shows, America's Got Talent, when it comes to Sophie, American Idol for Red, and I have plenty of others I could reference here. They all tell me the same thing. Once you get to a certain point, the producers tell you what style they want you to do. They tell you what to say. They tell you what to dig up as far as your storyline. All of a sudden, when they're telling you who you need to be, you kind of lose yourself, because now you just become a puppet. You become a character in their narrative. Labels do that historically better than anyone. The music industry on a major label is a very fickle industry. It is not for the faint of heart. They'll bring you in and turn you into whoever they think is going to be most marketable, and then throw you away like yesterday's trash. You have to look at, how are you going to keep you if you value yourself. If you don't care, if sign on the dotted line doesn't matter to you, YOLO, then that's fine. But I'm saying those of us that have integrity, those of us that want to stay ourselves and be fulfilled in what we do and not just do it for a paycheck, that's something you have to look at, because overnight success will change people.
All right, so Adam, you're telling me why it's horrible to become rich and famous.
That's not at all what I'm trying to do in this video. I'm trying to say we have to prepare ourselves. The first thing I want you guys to do, and I know this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but you gotta have a vision. Some people like vision boards. Some people do journaling. Some people will have a screensaver. I did this years ago. Chico will tell you I had a Porsche and an i8 and an R8 and a Huracan. I haven't owned a Porsche, but I've owned all the other ones, and it was because I saw it every day. If your vision for what you want in life is vivid, then you could close your eyes and tell somebody, this is what my life looks like in 5 years. This is what my life looks like in 10 years. I don't care how big or small it is, but you have to go in with a vision. If you don't have a vision, like I was just talking about, somebody else will download their vision into you and you'll just lose yourself, which I think is very sad, to say the least. But number one, visualize. So I want you guys, after watching this video, I want you guys to either create some type of vision board, go on Pinterest and pin things that you can visualize yourself doing in life. That could be travel. It doesn't have to be fancy cars, watches, clothes, that stuff. Could be family. Could be a certain layer of responsibility to your community that you want to step up and step into, right? So visualize, vision board, journaling, these things help. Every ship needs a map. You have to chart out the waters that you're sailing in. We have to look at other artists that have done what we want to do, and success leaves clues. I don't know if you guys have heard that before. It's something we kind of live by here. So if you look at an artist such as Nick D, shout out to Nick D, just released a book, trying to get him on a podcast, amazing dude. He has a great book. Russ has a great book. But you have to look at these things. This is not the blueprint for you. This is how they did it. So how can you apply that to what you're doing? Obviously, a little bit of unbiased advice. Like, I have a great program and a community that's going to be coming out very soon. And it's all aimed to help independent music artists map out their own plan using strategies and stuff. But I'm not trying to sell you on that. I have a podcast too. Market Your Music podcast. I've never talked about this, right? We were like 20 something episodes in and I'm awful at promoting it. So I'll put that in the comments section below. I'd love for you to check it out and give me a 5-star review or whatever the review. Anyway, what we have to do is we have to look at how are we going to emulate what other people have done? Whether that just be, I want to perform at Coachella. I want to perform at Rolling Loud. Like, I want to perform, like, there's a way to do these things. You have to see, okay, Wiz Khalifa did this, Ed Sheeran did this, and this, and then compare it a little bit to what you've done. I say that because so many people that are rich and famous now, let's just say successful, right? So many of those people have been doing it for 5, 10, 20, 40 years. I mean, 40 years, I'm sorry, it's somebody that's been doing it, right? Like Creed. Anyway, well, we have to look at the time put in, because it gets really, really frustrating when I see people that have been doing music for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, and they're so frustrated. They're at the end of their rope. Again, tying into the mental health downside of things, comparing themselves to others. Comparison is the thief of joy. We have to look at how long was the time horizon on somebody that I look up to get to where they are now, to where I'm like just fantasizing about being at that level. And then we have to compare it and say, okay, I need to be humble. I need to stay grounded, which we're going to get to, but you have to look at what other people are doing, read those clues, and then apply it the best way you can. Now, a couple more things that I need you guys to do in preparation of your success is find somebody that's financially conscious. Like I said earlier, getting a CPA, even going and reaching out to somebody at H&R Block or something, Charles Schwab, and try to get somebody on your side that you can call, that you can email, that you could pop in and say, hey, if this were to happen, what would you recommend? If I made this money, how much would I have to set aside for taxes? I'm not saying have somebody full-time at your beck and call, but somebody that you trust, that knows more than you about the money side of things. That's super important. Speaking of building your team, slowly but surely, I talk about this in my masterclass, building automations as team members. If you have an automation, it's like an employee that doesn't require 401k. We kind of joke about that, but look at what you need to do on a day-to-day basis. Do a time breakdown. I was going to say analysis, but do a time breakdown. What are you doing throughout the day? I know a lot of you guys work long hours. I'm very conscious of that and cognizant. Like I've been there. I had a corporate job for a decade and also did music full time and was a busybody and had no social life and no successful relationships. But it really comes to your priority list of who do you need right now? Do you need accountability? Do you need a mentor? You need to educate yourself. I think that's something that we have to look at. I don't want you guys thinking that I'm talking about building a team right now. I'm saying, what do you all need to do and what can you employ? Software, systems, worksheets to be able to do that. So many times we look at this and it gets under my skin too. When somebody's been rapping for 6 months, they're like, oh, I got a team. No, you don't. You have people that are trying to leech off you. Do everything you can for as long as you can. And then slowly but reluctantly bring people on to replace you in certain roles. Like I mentioned earlier, guys, you need to stay grounded. You need to keep your ego in check. Ryan Holiday has a great book called Ego is the Enemy. Another book that's even bigger of a banger is The Obstacle is the Way. Both amazing books. I highly recommend both of them. I'll put a link in the description box below. You got to look at what success looks like to you and say, am I in this for the long run? Or am I in this for immediate gratification, immediate validation? Do I need money right now? We all need money right now. But the more money you make, the more problems you'll have, right? Like I said earlier, $100,000, at least here in America, it's like $50-something thousand. In other states, it's less than that. We got to look at what success looks like. And it's not just a financial thing. What does your time look like? How valuable is your time? Success isn't just about your music. It's about your journey. It's about the ups and downs. It's about how that story comes together to make your reality. Success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So are you going after the opportunities? Are you preparing? That's a question that only you can answer. And I hope this video helps you get there. Watch this video next if you want actual tactical tips, techniques, strategies to build your audience, build your fan base. That's a huge step in what you're trying to do. Subscribe to this channel by clicking that little button and hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. Thumbs up are always appreciated. And I'd love to know in the comments what your goal is, what your vision of success is. Until next time, I appreciate you watching.